Good afternoon. My name is Alan Harned. I'm with Virginia Clean Cities. We're going to begin today with a video. I want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to just appreciate how much we all care about transit, air quality, and advanced technologies. We're going to start off today with a video from Virginia Transit Association regarding their Faces of Transit program, which also mentions some other electric buses in the Commonwealth. Well, thank you very much. We're here today with just a fantastic program. We've got a series of speakers that were advertised, but I briefly want to welcome everybody here. I'm going to go full screen on this, and just bear with me because I'm not that great at with our new webinar technologies. I want to recognize, I'm Alan Harned with Virginia Clean Cities. I want to recognize all of our shared values for the importance of air quality, for the importance of these new technologies like the newer diesel engines versus the much older diesel engines, which are a lot dirtier, and to talk a little bit about this site tour that we will embark on today. As peers in transit, as leaders in transit, as leaders in fleets throughout Virginia make efforts for cleaner fuels, vehicles, and technologies, we want to be with them and supporting them, and also sharing their message. Virginia Clean Cities is a statewide alternative transportation fuel coalition established in 1996, but really formed in following the Energy Policy Act of 1993. Virginia Clean Cities is working collaboratively with a number of stakeholders, partners across the Commonwealth to deploy clean fuel technologies and improve our environment and reduce our dependence on oil. VCC is at James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and we also have a peer organization in the Washington, D.C. area. That's the Greater Washington, D.C. Clean Cities Coalition, working on a range of projects. In 2020, this year, we plan to do several transportation facility site visits. These visits were delayed by COVID, and this event, this virtual site visit, is the first Virginia Clean Cities attempt at bringing an audience out virtually to experience these technologies with alternative fuel fleet facilities. We selected Dash because of their total commitment to sustainability and for the deployment, the very timely deployment of these wonderful electric buses. Today, I would like to recognize some speakers. We're going to be hearing today from the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality with Angela Conroy, from the Department of Rail and Public Transportation with Clinton Edwards, and we're going to be celebrating the great work of DASH with Josh Baker and members of his team, as well as watching a video tour. I hope everybody sticks around for the 20-minute video tour of the DASH facility. This is a important rollout of the site tour video. I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Angela Conroy. Angela has a range of air quality planning and air quality improvement programs. Specifically, she's been working as a leader for years in the Commonwealth with the governor's Volkswagen settlement and diesel replacement programs at DEQ. These programs have from the start prioritized emission reduction and technology pilots and technology deployments with the electric transit vehicles. I'm going to put my video on mute, and I hope that you'll be able to. I'm actually going to stop sharing so that her video will show up on your screen. Actually, I'm not seeing Angela. I'm not seeing your camera right now, so you might not be using a camera.
I'm not using a camera, so you can just keep it right where it is, Alan. And great.
Go ahead.
Awesome. So thanks, Alan, and thanks to the entire VCC staff for making this first virtual tour possible. We thank you for all of your good work that you guys have been doing for years. It really gets us to the point and the privilege of the exciting news out of DASH and the deployment of electric transit buses. So, and thank you for inviting us to say a couple words. I'm going to be brief so we can really get to the star of the event today, and that is the video on the electric transit buses. I will have to say I had a preview of the buses maybe about 2 weeks ago, and it is just like unbelievable, right? So I almost cried. Poetry in motion. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. So I'm going to touch on 2 points right now, and that is partnership and leadership. Then, of course, I have to make sure, I want to make sure everybody who's on the call today knows that about our Clean Air Communities program, $20 million grant opportunity for state and local governments. So let me start off by talking about partnership. And today, partnership means DEQ's partnership with the Department of Rail and Public Transportation to deploy the Commonwealth's first battery electric transit buses. I cannot say enough good things about our partnership with DRPT, right? So thank you, Jennifer Jabril. Thank you, Neil Sherman. Thank you, Clinton Edwards, boots on the ground in Northern Virginia. Without this partnership, it's just been tremendous, right? So we have VW dollars, DRPT has the expertise. It is a tremendous partnership. And so we have worked together to deploy the first battery electric transit buses. And now we're continuing our work together to expand the deployment of additional battery electric transit buses in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So thank you, DRPT. Tremendous, tremendous relationship to get this done. And so we look forward to our continuing our partnership with you on this. Leadership, right? So we can have money, we can have the expertise, we can have the means to get the program out and about, but if no one steps up to lead, then we're nowhere. So this is where I want to say thank you, DASH, for stepping up and leading by example, raising your hand to say yes to technology and being one of the first 3 transit agencies in the Commonwealth of Virginia to deploy a battery electric transit buses. And not only that, but to commit to transitioning your entire fleet to zero emissions by 2035. So thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to supporting you, learning from what you're doing, and make sure that we continue to support you in your efforts as you transition your fleet to zero emissions. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you, DRPT, for your partnership. And so now I'm just going to plug our Clean Air Communities program. We have a $20 million funding opportunity that's also funded through our Volkswagen settlement. This is for a funding opportunity for state and local governments for projects. There's an array of projects, medium and heavy duty vehicles, shuttle buses, repowering of tugs and ferries, freight switchers, and some other good stuff. So please make sure that you check out the program. You can find information about the Clean Air Communities program on DEQ's website. Of course, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions regarding this current request for applications for projects under our Clean Air Communities program. So, Alan, I'm going to turn it over to you to move forward. Thank you so much for inviting us today.
Angela, thank you so much. And now you definitely have to stick around for the question and answers in case folks have some questions about that program, which is up on the DEQ website for the funding that's available. So thank you. I want to recognize our next speaker, Clinton Edwards, with the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. Thank you to everybody who is speaking today, but in particular, I want to recognize DRPT for their merit program by enabling electric vehicles and alternative fuel vehicles to be included in these programs, and by including an important slice for vehicle scrappage and replacement. They were a valuable partner to this effort. So I do want to recognize Clinton Edwards with DRPT. If you could turn on your video. There you go, Clinton.
Thank you very much, Alan, and good afternoon to everyone. As Angela was just previously mentioning, this has really been about partnerships. For those of you that take federal funds, just think about it for a moment. Coupled with the DEQ funds and the DRPT funds when awarded, a transit agency has the ability to only have to pay 4% of the cost of this transition from diesel buses to electric. So that's really a great incentive for those that are willing to jump in and give this a shot. Just briefly, Alan also mentioned the merit program, and I'm just going to briefly go over the merit program, talk about DRPT's approach, go over the agencies that have received battery electric buses and other initiatives that we're working on. Merit, for those of you that do not know, Merit is DRPT's competitive prioritization grant process, and Merit actually is an acronym. Merit stands for Making Efficient and Responsible Investment in Transit. Of course, it is the DRPT statewide public transportation grant program, and the program provides financial assistance to support public transportation services throughout the state and is designed to support DRPT's core mission. And of course, DRPT's core mission is to facilitate and improve the mobility and the citizens of Virginia, and to promote the efficient transport of goods and people in a safe, reliable, and cost-effective manner. I feel like it's really appropriate that DRPT kind of falls between DEQ and DASH on this program today. Without the partnership with DEQ, this wouldn't be possible, and without DASH and other agencies across the state really looking to jump in and really looking to implement electric buses, this wouldn't be possible. So I'll go ahead and just talk about our approach to alternative fuels. What DRPT has done is that we've taken a measured approach to battery electric buses. We're building on a foundation of good planning. Of course, beyond the availability of just electric buses, DRPT is also interested in other environmentally friendly propulsion methods that would provide some level of benefit to the environment, whether that be hybrid buses or natural gas buses. Now, let me go and touch on that point about measured approach. What DRPT looks for in looking for anyone that wants to do this partnership is that we're looking for a good, solid planning effort. We're not looking for one-off buses like we want a new shiny toy for Christmas and a battery electric bus. What we're looking for is some level of planning. Here in the city of Alexandria, in the Northern Virginia office, we're actually located in Alexandria. And the city of Alexandria has an Eco City Alexandria, which is the city of Alexandria's environmental action plan. So that type of forward-thinking, zero emissions type of action plans for a jurisdiction, coupled with a transit agency's transit development plan, transit strategic plan, are the type of planning efforts that we're looking for. Other things that we're looking for in those that are looking at doing these alternative vehicles, including electric, is that we want to see local or federal funding for those that receive it. Most agencies in Northern Virginia just send their federal funds directly to WMATA. We want to see those funds being leveraged. We also want to see approved funding for these necessary infrastructure, whether you're going compressed natural gas or electric. There's some sort of facility modifications that have to be made. And then we also want to see the clear intent to migrate to an alternative fuel type, electric, clean diesel, hybrid, because what we're not, as I mentioned earlier, is not looking for one-offs, two-off buses. We want to see that an agency is looking to move in that direction. Just touching on the Dominion program, Dominion has also been a significant partner. Dominion Energy, along with Fairfax County, Virginia Department of Transportation, TransDev, several other organizations, and DRPT had launched an automated electric shuttle in the Dunn-Loring metro area, where it's an automated vehicle that is electric. Dominion, and I mentioned that because Dominion has a rebate program where they are offering rebates for charging stations and make-ready installations. So if anyone needs more information on that, I can pass that information on to Alan, and he can distribute that information accordingly. And just one other note on electric vehicles, DRPT is looking to have a procurement out sometime next year for BOCs and Ford Transit vans next year, so that those that have vehicles that are smaller than 40-foot vehicles can actually look in going electric. Finally, we'll harp on the success of those agencies that have gone electric. We have, of course, Alexandria Transit Company, Dash, here in Alexandria. They are going to be receiving 6 electric buses. We have Hampton Roads Transit in the Tidewater area. They also receive 6. And good old BT in Southwest Virginia, Blacksburg Transit. They are going to be receiving 5 electric buses, including the largest 2 electric buses that will be in the state. They will be 60-foot articulated. So we are very excited, happy about this partnership that we have with Dash, with HRT, with DEQ, so that we can bring this a battery electric. And just the final thing I want to say about battery electric buses, there's approximately $5 million remaining in this Volkswagen mitigation settlement. It is DRPT's intention that we are going to have those funds under contract with agencies across the Commonwealth in the FY22 merit program, with applications actually open on December the 1st and close on February the 1st. So those that are interested, it is required to be a diesel bus. I want to emphasize diesel. That is a 2009 model or older. And that bus would have to be fully scrapped. Dash or HRT or Blacksburg Transit could provide anyone pictures of those buses that they have already scrapped. And just that last thing, the delta between the DRPT funding and the Volkswagen mitigation funding is that DRPT, through the merit program, will cover 68% of your replacement. The locality will be responsible for 32%. However, that delta between the diesel bus and the electric, up to $500,000, is covered 100% with those DEQ Volkswagen mitigation funds. So it's a great opportunity, and we're looking forward to seeing those buses on the street. So with that, thank you all very much for your time, and I will stick around to the end for any questions. And Alan, I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, that is so fantastic, Clinton. And I love that you were mentioning that federal leverage. I will note that the low and no emissions bus program from the Federal Transit, which does do 85% of hydrogen or renewable natural gas or electric buses. That program got $80 million last year. And so that would be a great way for transit districts to pair up and to close out that last $5 million. I'm glad that you guys are tackling this. I am going to introduce our next speaker who I met tracking these same issues back when he was with a different transit firm who was looking at electric buses. And so it's so fantastic to see this completed project. It was like relief for my soul to see the progress made and completed with Dash. I'd like to welcome, and I live in Harrisonburg, and his mom lives here, and she's pretty cool. Lives in Harrisonburg, so I got a chance to meet his mom. Anyway, Josh Baker, want to welcome you, and I'm going to turn off my video, and we'd love to hear from you, and thank you for your good work.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate the intro. Yes, my mom is a big fan of yours, and she's a huge fan of the environment, as am I. So she's super excited about the electric buses. Unfortunately, with COVID going on, we've all been limited in our ability to travel and to come up for events. So she wasn't able to attend this our unveiling of our electric buses. But nonetheless, got to see it online. Really happy to be here today. I appreciate everyone tuning in to talk about this important subject. Look, the future of our environment and our planet relies on groups that are on this very panel, people who are involved in this work, the organizations that are represented here, those who are attending. Kudos to you for really committing your time and tuning in to listen. Unfortunately, I'm not the most interesting person, so I'll try to come up with some interesting things to talk about and make it worth your while. I will say that Ray, who is going to be featured a little later and did the tour, really knows this stuff inside and out, and is really fantastic, along with Martin from my team, both of whom will be around for the Q&A afterwards, myself included. But Alan asked me to join this webinar to talk a little bit about what we've been doing here at Dash and to highlight our efforts. And I just got to say, they are a team effort. As the previous speakers mentioned, there are so many organizations, groups, departments that had to come together to make these projects happen. As mentioned, DEQ and DRPT, super huge, fantastic partners in this. It's really appreciated when you're able to call colleagues and say, look, this is what we're trying to do. We're committed to this. We have the local commitment. There are some technicalities we've got to figure out. How do we navigate that? And the conversation is, great, let's figure out them, instead of here are some more barriers. It's all about finding solutions. So we really appreciate DEQ and DRPT for being collaborative like that. Of course, I'll also give shout-outs to the organizations locally and the entities locally who helped us with this project. Certainly the City of Alexandria, huge, important partner for us in this. Dash is not actually a department of the city. We are a separate entity. We're wholly owned by the city, sort of an interesting arrangement. So we're not city staff, but we work together to make these things happen. And so the city staff of Alexandria have just been phenomenal to work with on this. So our board of directors has stood behind our efforts towards sustainability. The Environmental Policy Commission, Clinton mentioned earlier, the City of Alexandria has an Eco-City Charter, and that was actually formed in 2008. So you can get a sense of how long the city has been committed to environmental action. And so to use the term environment in a different way, the environment here is really suitable and supportive of making this happen. As Alan pointed out, when I was previously in Lynchburg, we talked a lot about projects like this. Also a community that was very interested. The means, though, were more limited, and there were some challenges that we ran into, so we weren't able to quite get that project off the ground. But I will tell you, even elsewhere in the state, even being in another role, it was really great to see the energy behind these kinds of things. So a little bit about Dash, as was mentioned. We are really, really committed to this, both from a sustainability standpoint, but also from a technology standpoint and innovation standpoint. We like to see the future. We like to be a part of the future and helping to understand how that might shake out for other systems. We see ourselves as a part of a community of transportation providers. And, to the degree that we can use our resources and our means to explore these technologies and learn about them and share that with others, it's really important. So if there's anyone who's on this presentation and you are interested in some follow-up conversations, please reach out to us. I'm more than happy to share what we know and what we've been learning. So here at Dash, we operate a fleet of just a little over 100 transit buses. We only do transit buses. We don't have paratransit services, although they operate in the city. They're operated by a different provider. The majority of our fleet is actually hybrid electric diesel buses. We still have some traditional diesel buses on the road, although their days are now numbered, which is good. But more importantly, we now have electric buses on the road, and we have more coming. Shout out to Clinton, fellow Hokie, and for those of you on the call who are Hokies, I am a Hokie, and I also got my start in Blacksburg with Blacksburg Transit, so a lot of BT alumni in the state, and I'm really proud of everything that we're doing. So, we do have more coming. Interesting point. Just want to announce here that not only do we have 3 on site with 3 more due to be delivered in a few months, we also have 8 more on order, including 4 60-foot fully electric transit buses coming probably by next summer, as I understand it. Ray may be able to talk more about that later on. So why did we do what we did? Essentially, because of the commitment, our commitment and the community's commitment, and the environment being right, but also because we saw the opportunities to use the funding to partner with DEQ. And we quickly realized that it was really, really important when we started on this to understand the feasibility of it, which is by way of a feasibility study that we did, but also the implementation plan that is coming up next. We currently have the implementation plan. Let's see, it was just recently awarded, so it's currently in the phase of sort of getting going, and for lack of a better term. The implementation plan really informs the details about how we execute the remainder of the fleet transition to electric. We have chargers on site. 3 of them are Proterra chargers. 3 of them are New Flyer chargers. To go back to the configuration of those 6 buses, we have 3 New Flyers and we have 3 Proterras. Part of our strategy in purchasing different buses from different manufacturers was to understand how they performed in the environment, both from the electric propulsion standpoint and battery technology, but also as far as being rugged and capable of withstanding the rigors of transit life. So we've got a lot of different moving parts there, and that's a big thing that the implementation plan does, is to take a look at that experience and to apply that for future investments. The other things that we're working on is the expansion of our facility. We have a fully indoor facility. The 6 chargers that we have installed now are actually inside. We have more space for more of them, but we also have an expansion of the facility, and you'll see a lot of that in the video here in a few minutes. But that's an important part of this project and an important part of understanding how we do that. We've also leveraged funds through the Smart Scale program as well as NVTA and NVTC, who are our regional funding partners and have helped us to be able to use our replacement program as a means to fund and work with DRPT to fund the gap, the difference between diesel and electric, to make sure that our commitment to being fully electric by 2035, and when we say that fully electric means that the fleet itself is 100% electric. Going away from buying a non-electric bus is going to happen within the next 2 to 3 years. Then we also have to understand that the buses that are out there today have a 12-year life. So minimum. Oftentimes at Dash, we see them run longer than that. But we understand that through our fleet replacement program, we're going to be able to transition to fully electric by 2035. So there's all these moving parts. There's all these different things going on and all these different projects. And really, in the end, our success has been leveraging the funding mechanisms, being willing to step out there and take some risk to understand that this is new developing technology and we may be at the forefront of this and we're going to have to learn some things. But at the same time, simultaneously studying and planning for the next step and making sure that what we do is all about the long-term commitment and it's all about creating a sustainable program that makes sure our environmental focus is attended to and our fleet operational capabilities are managed. So I've said a lot of different things. I've been all over the place, but the one message I want to kind of leave you all with as you think about what we've been doing and what you might do in the future and whether you have interest in this technology from a provider of transit or non-transit purposes, be it whatever it is to understand that the partnership component is so critical because you have to be able to leverage not only what those partners bring to the table, be it financial or technical skill sets, but ultimately in support and providing their understanding of how this technology works, what the need is, and what the long-term possibilities are for it. I always like to say with my staff, none of us are an expert at everything. We are all experts at what certain things interest us or we've come with particular talent related to. But in the end, we have to rely on each other to be able to put the pieces all together and make the project successful. So my last shout out is to my team, fantastic group of people here at Dash, very committed, very excited, very knowledgeable, much more so than I. And please let us know how we can be a support and how we can further talk about what we're doing and show you, as you will see in the video. So we'll go ahead and let you take back over, Alan. I know you've got a video to show.
I'm going to play that video, and I do also just want to preface this video. It should just be called Ray is Fantastic. Thank you, Raymond. We're going to hop into this video. Well, great. Well, I want to thank everybody for sticking around. We have an opportunity now to ask and answer some questions. I'd like to introduce Sarah with our program. So Sarah with Virginia Clean Cities is going to be asking us some questions. There we go. Okay, good. And I'm going to see if I can just double check. The video is no longer playing. Is that right, Sarah? Or nobody can see that video? Great. All right. Well, Sarah, if you could ask some questions, and participants, if you can't find the Q&A feature, then please use the chat. But I have seen people using the Q&A.
All right, so we'll get started with our first question. So this is for all the panelists. Anyone who has anything, feel free to jump in. Have you learned anything during this process that you would like to share with others that are looking to achieve similar accomplishments? Go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself and just jump in.
I could start just by saying, this is something that you could get into some analysis paralysis with. And the thing that we learned was to kind of, if you're dealing with that, step back and understand what it is that you're getting hung up on, and make sure that it's not just a general aversion to new technology. Ray may want to add something there, Clinton.
Yeah, I'll add a few points to that. I think making sure that you don't let the aversion get in your way. One of my biggest experiences through this process that we're we're all still going through is that there is a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn, and we and everyone should expect to learn something new every single day. There shouldn't be an expectation, or no one should feel like, no one should feel like they're not up to the task because we don't know anything, or you don't have all the answers. And what we find is that there, at any point in the process, we are still learning every day. There's always going to be something new. We have completed. We spent a lot of time and resources and energy on this. We completed a zero emissions bus feasibility study. We have now kicked off and now started underway on our zero emissions bus implementation plan. And as you've seen, we've implemented 6 chargers, 6 buses, and 8 more on the way. I think commitment is going to be a key part, but also going into understanding that there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot of unknowns, and that's expected for an effort like this.
Thank you. And does anyone else have anything they want to ask?
I'll just add quickly, just to engage, if an agency is looking to move forward with going battery electric, engaging their utility provider very early on. I think in different presentations I've been in, many agencies across the country received the sticker shock when they received their first bill from their electricity company for demand charges, and they weren't prepared for that increase of the bill. So just engaging them and just making sure that the facility has enough power to be able to do all of the basic core functions, and including adding any electric chargers.
Yeah, and Clint, to that point, one of the important things that we have learned through our process is understanding right off the bat what can our facility, what can it handle, what can it not handle, and that's really paved the way and help us lay out the framework for what we've accomplished so far and what we will need to figure out in order to get to our eventual goal of going 100% zero emissions.
And that leads us very well into another question that we have on the topic of charging demand, both during the tour, and then Clinton mentioned the challenges of charging demand and charging demand management. Can any of you speak a little bit to that topic with any of the technologies or software that you might be familiar with for managing charging demand?
Yeah, so I'll speak to this a little bit. So we very recently got our first 6 chargers, and we are just now slowly launching into service our first 3 electric buses, with many more on the way. It's our expectation that as we roll out our electric bus and as we start deploying in scale, there will be a point in time where we need to start figuring out how to manage or optimize our charging practices, and that goes hand in hand with managing and optimizing our logistic practices inside our garage. How buses come in and out, how do they get serviced, how do they get energized or fueled, so on and so forth. Where we are now, we are just now learning to take our first steps, figuring out how the buses charge, how we can get them out into service, how we bring them back. It's really just elementary stuff like how long will it take for a bus to top off and how long does it take to turn a bus around. Again, these are our first steps. These are baby steps too, but we anticipate we have a long process ahead of us where throughout this process we're going to move on from learning how to walk to learning how to jog, and eventually we're going to learn how to dance. And somewhere in that process, we do envision that we will learn a lot of experience and a lot of best practices, one from ourselves and second through our various studies and throughout the industry. With our zero emissions implementation study, it's very likely we're going to have to explore some type of charge management system, especially with the diversity of charging technologies and manufacturers that we are involving in our zero emissions bus program. So that is all forthcoming.
And for a project like this, is this something that you foresee would be replicable in more rural locations across the state?
I think it could be, but I think for those in more rural areas, they have to figure out how long they want the bus to be out on the street. One word of caution is that I've heard over and over again is that if your base bus is out on its route from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., you shouldn't expect that same type of diesel equivalency with a battery electric bus. So for a rural system, they would have to look at possibly coming up with some opportunity chargers if those buses stay out all day, or just looking at the way they have their work cut, if they need to bring back the bus back in, or actually having opportunity chargers within the service area. So I think it could work in a rural area, but there's just different considerations that have to remain in effect.
Yeah, I would just add that we've seen pretty good range out of our buses. We're waiting to see what the cold weather does to them, but surprisingly early on, there's always range anxiety, and that doesn't seem to be as much of a problem as we originally had anticipated. So you may be able to, depending on your service mode, be able to do more than you might think, depending on the bus size and capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also add that just based on my knowledge, a rural application is not necessarily a less ideal application for an electric bus. It depends on your service profile, depends on the behavior of the bus. Is it stopping every block? Is it stopping every mile? I will say that, like Josh had mentioned and as mentioned in the video, very frequent stop and go, and also very frequent doors opening in cold weather actually presents a very challenging environment for electric buses. We see that currently, with the performance of our electric buses, because heat is not a natural byproduct of the bus as it used to be during for a diesel bus. So the new technology has many benefits, but also has new challenges which are new to us now and not typically something we're used to. So to that regard, I wouldn't necessarily say that a rural environment or rural application is necessarily a bad one or a less ideal one for electric buses.
Yeah, and Sarah, this is Angela Conroy, and I think that Clinton mentioned it earlier in the very beginning is that, so we first got started and DRPT and DGS, again, and I forgot to mention DGS and their good work in getting the first ever electric battery buses on a state contract, right? So we were thinking larger buses at the time. This Clinton mentioned, so we're now looking to add smaller buses to a state contract, which will further facilitate use in a more rural area, right? So all rural areas don't operate the same. You have a Roanoke, Virginia transit bus, and then you have, more rural applications out in Franklin County where they use smaller buses to transport people. So there's no one size fits all, but I think that battery electric buses match to the right profile of use of that transit is something we can definitely look at. And so, you don't always need a 40-foot, 60-foot bus running in these areas. And so that's another way that we're looking to facilitate the expansion of battery electric technology in other places of the state outside of our rural urban areas, right? So just wanted to mention that.
All right, great. Excellent answers. I am going to draw in a question from our Q&A chat that Alan already mentioned, but I think it might be good to share with those of you who aren't actively reading through the chat. So this question is there a state or regional charging standard for the buses? For example, so a Dash bus could potentially use charging facilities in Fairfax or something like that.
And I will just jump right in and say how much I appreciated that question. It was noted in the video, that J1772 CCS standard, and I ran around my office to find my example charger. It's the North American standard for fast charging of electric vehicles, and it goes all the way up to 350, 450 kilowatts of throughput into a vehicle. So it's a pretty robust piece of equipment. That same equipment can be used as a depot charger for any facility across the bus market. So sticking with that standard for depot charging is key. And I just want to drop a quick anecdote. Back before all this happened, all the Clean Cities coordinators met out in Salt Lake City, Utah. And Utah, because of their work with the Olympics years ago, has a lot of electric transit vehicles that are operating, fully electric operating. And we got a chance to tour around in one of them, and we ended up just recharging at a workplace DC fast charger that was installed at a workplace partnership. So we sort of pulled the bus up and just plugged it into a charger that was meant for much smaller vehicles. So the standard that works for all cars will work for buses. The big challenge is going to be the parking space. And I don't know if Raymond or Josh, if you have any thoughts on interoperability with kind of opportunity charging, but I did want to share that anecdote and that comment.
Yeah, thanks for providing that background, and that is one of our objectives. As I think it was mentioned in the video, of being able to demonstrate the industry commitment to standardization as far as charge ports and charging technology. One of the things that really gave us a lot of comfort and a lot of confidence and assurance to be able to move forward, especially with two different manufacturers, is knowing that the industry has committed to conforming to a standardized charging technology. And that extends beyond transit as well. Fun fact, we actually did take one of our electric buses and tried to plug it into a consumer charging station at a Walmart. Didn't work quite then, but the port fits. So there are challenges and there are still things to be worked out. And we had the New Flyer folks talking with the I think it was Charge America folks to try to figure out how it works. But it allows us to really demonstrate and exercise standardization of technology. We were able to get, as mentioned, success in using the Proterra charger to charge a New Flyer bus, which is great. We're hoping to be able to demonstrate the reciprocal once our Proterras arrive. But ultimately, this gives the transit agencies and customers the ability to not be forced to put all their eggs in one basket, to be able to diversify and really apply fleet and transition in the way that's really truly best for the agency.
Excellent. Well, now that we are about almost 15 minutes past our original scheduled event time, is there anything that any of the panelists would like to say as a final wrap-up?
I would just say thank you to Virginia Clean Cities for putting this together and for helping to get the word out about what we're doing. And to those who attended, this is just a really important thing, and we're happy to, as I mentioned when I was speaking earlier, we're happy to answer your questions. And Alan, please share the contact information you have with anybody who asks for it. We're happy to be a resource for anyone who needs it. Thank you.
Well, that is great. And that's a good way to wrap all of this. I want to thank everybody again for their time and wish everybody a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.